The stock market staged a dramatic recovery today. I'm going to tell you why. The Dow surged 1,000 points after the president said the U.S. could soon sign a deal with Iran, but we don't really know where or how, and there's no details. Investors are also gearing up for the debut of SpaceX on the NASDAQ tomorrow, which just set the record for the world's largest IPO, raising $75 billion. That is a massive number, but I'm focused on an even bigger one, $1 trillion. Elon Musk is set to become the world's first trillionaire. Do you see I'm tongue-tied just saying it when SpaceX goes public? If he were a country, he would be the 22nd largest economy, just behind Poland and ahead of Taiwan. But here's the thing. Despite all of the hype and all of the promises, the actual financials do not add up to actual profit. SpaceX has recorded $13 billion worth of losses since the beginning of 2023. That is according to recent filings. In the first 3 months of this year alone, it lost nearly $4.5 billion. Morningstar analysts believe it is worth less than half of its massive $1.75 trillion IPO target. And if you do not like how Musk does his business, well, then tough nuts, kids, because after this IPO, he is expected to retain about 82% of the company's voting rights. Thousands of current and former SpaceX employees will become millionaires tomorrow when this puppy goes public. But they and we will be very wise to remember it is Musk's company, and we are just along for the ride. With me now to discuss, Teddy Schleifer with the New York Times. He covers campaign finance and how the extremely wealthy Americans are influencing politics now more than ever. And my dear friend Brendan Greeley, contributing editor for the Financial Times. His new book out entitled
The Almighty Dollar, 500 Years of the World's Most Powerful Money.
Is a must-read. Okay. SpaceX did manage to pull an $800 million profit in 2024, but it is still taking losses. Investors are pouring money into this IPO, and they know they're not going to have any control of this company. They're betting on Elon Musk. And I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that's the bet. They're saying this guy is the future. Let's go.
It doesn't add up is the problem. If you take any first-year analyst right out of Wharton and you gave them all of this data, they would not come up with this valuation, right? SpaceX is going to trade at 100 times earnings. Apple trades at like 30, 35. None of that makes sense. But here's the difference. Apple is not going to put its phones on Mars. We're buying a dream. That's what you're buying. It is absolutely impossible to value this company at the valuation that they're asking for. That Morningstar report that you cited that said it's only worth $780 billion. What they basically said is there are two businesses. One of them is an AI business. It has no moat. There's nothing that distinguishes it from any other AI company. Then they have this other business that shoots things into space. That's a pretty good business. Elon Musk does build things. Does he build things worth 100 times earnings? That doesn't make any sense.
I want to talk about the wealth transfer factor of this. Teddy, investors, they bet on the future, but this time they're actually gambling with a lot of people's futures. SpaceX, because of some rule changes that we have never seen before, is now going to be showing up in 401k accounts, whether Americans want it or not. How risky is this to the American people, to the millions and millions of Americans who have 401ks, who have retirement accounts, who are suddenly going to see this in them?
Well, I mean, so much of the current stock market and the 401k returns are based on these mega cap companies, things like Apple, Meta, Google, and now including SpaceX. And of course, regular Americans do not run these companies. And if you are invested in the stock market, you got to deal with the founders and CEOs who make these decisions and hope for the best. I mean, SpaceX is predicting, Stephanie, the largest total addressable market in human history. So if they fill that TAM, as it's called, good for all of us. If they do not, then that's where the problem lies, of course.
I want to talk about Elon Musk as a person. He's obviously faced a lot of scrutiny over recent years, so of his business practices. But let's just talk about how powerful he is. He wants to impact a war? Well, he can. He controls Starlink. He wants to impact communication? He can. He buys Twitter. Remember, when Trump won the second term, we called him the shadow president. Yeah. And while Doge may be largely dismantled, and he's not sleeping on Stephen Miller's couch and living in D.C., a huge portion of money that they make, a huge amount of time they spend is within our government, the massive amount of government contracts they have that are not going away anytime soon. So even if people question Elon Musk, the person, is the reason they're bananas for this thing is because they realize just how powerful he is and how closely tied to the government he is.
And we're about to make him too big to fail. This is the problem.
Bingo.
Is that it's not just that he's going to be listed in in these tracker funds that everybody has in their 401ks. It's that they had to bend the rules to put him in there. You know, there's this idea that it's impossible to value his company because he has a reality distortion field. It's working. They bent the rules. So once we're all invested in Elon Musk, it's not just that he has access to the government. It's not just that he managed to reshape NASA in his image as viceroy of America under Donald Trump.
Wow.
It's that we all now have no choice but to support what he wants because we're all invested in this insane thing that you and I can't figure out how to value right now.
It's extraordinary. It's not just Elon Musk. OpenAI is one of the most highly anticipated IPOs coming down the pike. That is largely due to Sam Altman. And again, Sam Altman, whose reputation has taken a serious hit recently. I mean, just think about this, Teddy. In the last few months, Sam Altman and Elon Musk have been in a courtroom calling one another hardcore liars. And now investors are about to put tens of billions of dollars and faith into these people.
Yeah, I mean, you hope that they're both not right, and you hope that maybe there's some hero out here. I mean, look, so much of the economy is about AI right now, right? And that's so much of SpaceX, which 3 years ago people were not thinking about it as an AI company, but suddenly it's an AI company, and they own xAI, which is one of OpenAI's competitors. OpenAI. 5 years ago, most people hadn't heard of this company. Now it's everywhere, right? And we haven't even talked about Anthropic, the third IPO that's going to happen this year, which is further going to kind of make the American economy depend on a few of these mega cap companies. And yeah, I mean, I was kind of joking before that you hope that everything is above board and that, there's no issues under the hood. But so much of kind of 401ks and index funds and, the American job market, to say nothing of the future of, work, is dependent on a few people making the correct decisions at the helm of a few companies. And that's just the way
here's the thing, Teddy. You better hope there's nothing sinister under the hood, but hope is all you have. Because you're going to basically have no recourse in this situation. He's going to control 82% of the voting shares of this company.
We're going to pay him for the right to do whatever he wants.
This is the point. Like, hope is all you got, boys and girls. Before we go, though, I have to ask you about Albania. These protests are growing over Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump's plans to build a luxury mega resort there. What do you make of this?
Must be nice to be Jared Kushner. You can kind of wander around the world, get whatever investments you want from whatever foreign countries you want. I don't think it ever occurred to them that anybody would care what they were doing. And what they didn't see, because the rest of the world doesn't exist to them.
Or they don't care that people care.
There has been frustration in Albania over corruption for a very long time. And so what they're doing is offensive, and it builds on a long history in that country of things that have been done to people. And I don't think they gave a second's thought about other things that were going on in that country and that anybody might mind or care.